Hey, so this is another video debunking this false doctrine of, Christians having a new heart, after they're saved, where people take verses out of context in Ezekiel and in Jeremiah, verses that are talking about the nation of Israel in the future. And they try to apply that to the church, and they try to teach that, that the church has like a new heart, and all the saved people in the church are just going to like totally walk in God's ways all the time and all this stuff. Now, I don't think anybody would argue that the Apostle Peter was a part of the New Testament church, okay? Let's see if he had this perfect new heart and walked in all of God's ways. Okay, here I am in Galatians chapter 2. And look, I might make some other videos giving examples of other people in the New Testament. Because there's quite a bit. And before I start reading these verses, I want to point out that the people who are obsessed with this new heart thing, and one of their big problems is straight up they just don't read the Bible. It's painfully obvious they don't read the Bible. Okay. So here's one example of something that either they haven't read at all, or they were totally spaced out when this was read to them, or they heard it somewhere, or whatever. But usually the problem is that they just don't read. Okay? Because there's too many examples in the Bible that debunk the whole church has a new heart thing. Plus the context itself and where it's stated in Ezekiel. But anyways, Galatians chapter 2, starting at verse 11. This is Paul recounting this story under the inspiration of the Holy Spirit. And so starting at verse 11. When Peter was come to Antioch, I withstood him to the face because he was to be blamed, right? So Paul recounts a story where he calls out Peter, okay? Why? For before that cert came from James, he did eat with the Gentiles. But when they were come, he withdrew and separated himself, fearing them which were of the circumcision, and the other Jews disassembled likewise with him, insomuch that Barnabas also was carried away with the dissimulation. It's not just Peter, even Barnabas, is falling for this foolishness. Fell for this foolishness. Verse 14. But when I saw that they walked not uprightly according to the truth of the gospel, I said unto Peter before them all, if thou, being a Jew, livest after the manner of the Gentiles, and not as do the Jews, why compellest thou the Gentiles to live as do the Jews? We who are Jews by nature, and not sinners of the Gentiles, knowing that a man is not justified by the works of the law, but by the faith of Jesus Christ, even we have believed in Jesus Christ, that we might be justified by the faith of Christ, and not by the works of the law. For by the works of the law shall no flesh be justified. Okay, now this is a great verse to quote to people when you're out evangelizing. But some people forget that this was told to Peter. Paul reminded Peter about this, okay? And to an extent, even Barnabas had to be reminded of this. Okay, but my point is, because this video is going on a little longer than I thought. But my point is that if a new heart supposedly causes you to walk in all of God's ways, why are Peter and Barnabas here not walking uprightly according to the truth of the gospel? Look, I don't mean this in a braggadocious way, okay? But when I was 8 years old, I beat this other 8-year-old in a chess match, in a chess tournament, okay? And he refused to admit that he was checkmated, okay? He just denied it. And denied it and denied it and denied it. And other people had to come in and basically tell him that he was checkmated. It's like, look, this guy checkmated you. Okay. And he just would not have none of it or whatever, right? And so what am I trying to say now is that this right here is a checkmate to the stupid false doctrine that Christians have a new heart and just walk in all of God's ways. Okay. And it even sounds like it's almost starting to borderline sinless perfection, which is, of course, heresy. But, look, Peter and Barnabas, who according to these people have new hearts, were not walking uprightly according to the truth of the gospel. Okay? So, that should demolish the new heart doctrine thing, And this is a checkmate. But you know what? I'm sure a lot of these people are going to have none of it. They're not going to admit that they've been checkmated. Just like that little 8-year-old all those years ago when I checkmated him when I was 8 years old. Okay? These people don't want to be... They're like an 8-year-old that doesn't want to admit that they've been checkmated. Checkmate!